I heard my daughter scream before I even reached the door. Not a startled cry, a raw, choked sound of someone fighting to breathe through a hand pressed over their mouth. I threw the door open hard enough to dent the wall. Down the hallway, I found Vivian Hargrove, my son-in-law's mother, pinning my daughter Claire against an armchair, one hand clamped over her mouth. "Get your hands off my daughter," I said, and my voice came out flat and final. I pulled Vivian back hard enough that she stumbled into a bookshelf, and I watched the fury drain from her face in seconds, replaced by calm, faintly amused innocence. "Thomas, I know what this looks like," she said smoothly. "Claire's under a lot of stress. I was just trying to calm her down." "That's not how you calm someone down." I got Claire into my truck without another word to Vivian. She was still shaking when she reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a USB drive. "I've been collecting things," she whispered, "for months. Dad, I think they're trying to take everything you built." My name is Thomas Whitfield. I'm 67. I built Whitfield Custom Cabinetry from a rented garage in Sacramento into a company with hundreds of employees and contracts up and down the coast. My late wife Ruth kept the books at our kitchen table every night for years. Her last words to me, before cancer took her 4 years ago, were simple. "Don't you dare let go of what we built." Claire had taken over as CEO 3 years back, out of love for the work, not obligation. Her husband Derek had come into her life 8 years ago. I never quite trusted him, the way he listened at dinner like he was filing information away rather than joining the conversation. His mother Vivian, a retired corporate attorney, had once asked me, almost in passing, how founder-led companies typically handled succession. I hadn't thought twice about it at the time. Sitting in my truck now, it felt like reconnaissance. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The first email stopped my breath. Derek to Vivian, subject line. Phase 2, ready to move. Claire had spent 7 months quietly gathering everything. Wire transfers totaling over $800,000. Routed through a shell company into an offshore account labeled with Derek and Vivian's initials. Correspondence discussing my company's designs like inventory. One line stopped me cold. "The old man's still sharp enough to notice if we move too fast. Once the board is secured and the medical documentation is in place, we won't need to be careful." Medical documentation. Vivian had hired an attorney to invoke an incapacity clause buried deep in our corporate charter, one that let the board remove a founder deemed unfit, no criminal charge required. There were audio recordings, too, Derek and Vivian discussing Claire like an obstacle. "She's been poking around the transfer records. Then we don't give her time." My phone rang. My assistant of 2 decades, voice shaking. The board had just been served falsified evidence claiming I'd sold trade secrets to a competitor. An emergency meeting was already underway. I drove straight there. 9 board members, not one meeting my eyes. The vote took 4 minutes. 7 in favor of suspending me, 0 in my defense. I sat in my truck outside that building and felt something strange. Not despair, but the quiet certainty that people who move this fast leave seams. I called Daniel Reyes, a retired FBI financial crimes agent and old friend. Over coffee, I laid it all out. He confirmed federal wire fraud and trade secret theft, and told me something that chilled me. He'd seen this exact pattern before, tied to a company called Vantage Interiors. "Vivian didn't invent this," he said. "She's run it before." We worked quietly. My assistant admitted, ashamed, that she'd unknowingly approved hidden cameras in my conference room months earlier, installed under Derek's authorization. Daniel and I combed through IT logs and found Derek had remotely downloaded dozens of proprietary design files at 3:47 one morning. We also found a smaller, steady payment stream running to our IT manager, Marcus. Derek had recruited him too, setting him up to take the technical fall. Daniel met Marcus privately, and by that evening, Marcus had signed a full cooperation agreement with the FBI. Then Daniel told me the part that stopped my blood cold. Marcus had once overheard Vivian discussing what would happen to Claire once the company was secured, that she wouldn't be able to fight back permanently, and that there were ways to ensure it that wouldn't leave the kind of evidence that causes problems. I told Claire to get out of that house that night. She climbed out her bedroom window the way she used to as a teenager, sneaking out past curfew, and we drove to Daniel's, where she finally let herself cry. That night she told us everything, how Derek had spent over a year isolating her, questioning her judgment until she doubted herself, and how the morning Vivian attacked her, she'd just found draft conservatorship papers with a fabricated psychological evaluation attached. The FBI had already been investigating Vantage Interiors for 8 months, with Vivian identified as the architect behind multiple similar schemes. They asked for 6 weeks to build an airtight case. I agreed, and spent that time playing exactly the confused old man they wanted to see. Forgetting names, arriving late, letting them believe they'd already won. The morning of the shareholder meeting, I wore the same navy suit I'd worn to sign our very first lease decades earlier. Claire walked in beside me, steady, unbroken. Vivian delivered her rehearsed case with total confidence. When she finished, I stood and laid out everything. The real emails, the download logs, the offshore account, Marcus's signed statement. The boardroom door opened. Agents walked in and read Derek his rights. He looked at his mother and said one word, "Mom." She gave him nothing back. As they cuffed Vivian, she looked at Claire and said quietly, "She was never strong enough for this." I told her she was wrong. Claire was mine. The case that followed ran deep. Derek and Vivian's operation had targeted 7 other companies over 4 years. Claire filed for divorce weeks later, and her attorney discovered Derek had secretly taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on her, with himself as the sole beneficiary. That investigation is still open. 6 months after the arrests, I turned my old Sacramento garage into a small company museum. On a quiet Saturday, Claire arrived with Daniel's granddaughter, who pressed her small hands against the concrete floor where Ruth had once written our daughter's name. I handed Claire my father's watch, the one I'd meant to give her the morning all of this began, engraved with words meant for exactly this moment. To the one who carries it forward. She held it to her chest and broke, not from grief, but from having come out the other side whole. I built something from nothing once, and I nearly lost it to people who mistook age for weakness and trust for foolishness. They forgot what every carpenter learns early. The older the wood, the harder it is to break. If Thomas and Claire's story moved you, hit like, tell us in the comments what you would have done in his place, and subscribe to Aftermath Tales for more powerful stories like this one.